Hello, everyone. It's me again. I hope everyone is doing well today. I've had an interesting past week and a half, so we won't get into too much detail on that. I'm pretty sure you guys don't want to hear about me breaking down on the highway. That was exciting. Today, I just wanted to talk to you real quick about what abuse is. I know this seems like it should be something that is cut and dry, but there are many times when someone feels that when someone is being abused and they feel that because they aren't being hit or they're not in the hospital or so and so has it worse, that they aren't being abused. And that's not right. It also kind of upsets me when somebody says something like, oh, well, he doesn't hit me. That doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. There are 6 different types of abuse. It is important to know that men can also be abused by female partners. They are less likely to talk about it, seek help, or oftentimes even admit it. The signs will be the same. Please don't be afraid to reach out. Abuse can also happen in same sex couples, and it does not discriminate over race, income levels, or education. I will go into those 6 different types and I will try to give examples of each one. I will also try to make sure that everything is gender neutral for those reasons. To keep everything fair, please keep in mind that is the pattern that sets the tone. Oftentimes, an abuser will start with a lesser form of abuse just to see what they can get away with, test those waters. Sometimes they will escalate from there and sometimes they won't. There are numbers available. If you really want to know about how long the average abuser takes to escalate, and there is a formula out there that very, very, very smart people have come up with. I will start with the most obvious form of abuse, and that is physical abuse. This is anything from punching to hitting, restraining your partner, driving recklessly, anything that makes that person feel that their physical self is not safe. That's all considered physical abuse. Pretty cut and dry. An example would be if someone is driving recklessly and you ask them to stop and they do, that's not abuse. However, if they do that every time they drive, they're upset, if they say things like, if you don't stop talking, I'm going to ram us all into the nearest brick wall or light pole or speed up towards said object, that's a form of physical abuse. That is harming your physical self. Sexual abuse is another form of physical abuse, but due to its nature, most people will put this in a class by itself. Some abusers will never use this form of abuse, and others will see nothing wrong with it. Sexual abuse is anything from rape to other forced acts to withholding sex or using it as a weapon. An abusive partner may assign value to the abused, either saying that they're only good for sex or they have no other use. Because of those emotions attached to sex run a lot more deeply, the feelings around it really play into that power and control struggle that abusive relationships have. In fact, it wasn't until 1993 that marital rape was even illegal and recognized in all 50 states. Some people think that sex is just something that a partner is granted permission to. It's not. It's all part of that power and control situation that is so common in abusive relationships. Remember that you have the power to say no to sex. If your partner doesn't respect your no, I would encourage you to think about the value that your partner has for you. Sex should always be enjoyable for both partners. If your partner uses withholding sex as a weapon, I would also encourage you to rethink those boundaries that you have with that relationship. Moving on, we have verbal or emotional abuse. This is often very times hard for friends and family members to spot because it doesn't leave any physical marks on that body. It often isn't accompanied by any form of physical abuse, which makes people that are going through it feel that they aren't really being abused. An example would be that an abuser would pick away at something that makes you who you are, often making you questioning your self-worth. It'll start out slowly and then it works its way from there. This is the type this is the type of abuse that is most commonly using just words. It's not to be confused with mental abuse. It's that physical or that verbal assault on your mental. Mental or psychological abuse is also called gaslighting, and that's where they make you feel like you're crazy. An example would be that things would be moved, such as your car keys won't be put where you placed them, or things will be going missing, or you'll leave a room knowing that you turned off all the lights and then you'll walk back in and all the lights will be on. The abuser will deny knowing anything about moving the items or turning on the light switches or what have you, making the person that is going through this type of abuse honestly think that they are losing their mind. I know for me it was my clothing would go missing. My work shirt I would lay out at the night before and it would just not be there. The last thing I will say on emotional abuses is that they often take longer to heal from these traumas because you have to relearn how to trust yourself, learning to have that faith in yourself again. It's a very hard task some days. The next type of abuse I am going to talk about is the financial abuse, which is another thing that an abuser will do to maintain that power, that control over their victim. There are a few different ways that this is done, whether it's controlling all of the budgeting for the household, not letting the victim have access to their own bank accounts, spending all of the money that was supposed to go towards bills, opening credit cards, running up debts in the victim's name, or simply just not letting the victim have a job to earn their own money. This type of abuse is often a very big reason why a person will be unwilling to leave an abusive relationship. Please know that shelters are very familiar with this type of abuse and they are willing to help, as are most churches. The last form is one that I'm not very familiar with. It's not one that I have ever experienced to my knowledge, and that is cultural or identity abuse. Cultural abuse happens when an abuser will use aspects of a victim's particular cultural identity to inflict that suffering. Not letting someone observe their dietary or dress and customs to their faith, using racial slurs, threatening to out somebody as LGBTQT if their friends and family don't know, isolating somebody who doesn't speak a dominant language in the area in which they live. These are all examples of cultural abuse. If you're going through any of these, please, please, please keep an eye open for that pattern. Once or twice isn't a pattern. More than that, it probably is. If the pattern is there, please reach out. You can reach out to a local domestic abuse shelter, clergy, a friend, family, me, whoever you have. Reach out to somebody. Talk to them. See if you can get help. I can only speak from my experiences when I say that leaving and living in a shelter with my 2 children was so much better than living day to day on those eggshells. I had so many fears about leaving and fears about anything, everything, and it all went away. It was still better leaving. One of my favorite sayings is be afraid and do it anyway. Do the scary thing in spite of that fear. You won't regret it. I will also note that statistically speaking, leaving an abusive relationship is more dangerous than living in it. Leave anyway. Respect who you are and what you are here for. Your life is worth more than to live a life you are not 100% in love with. You deserve to be happy. You deserve to be loved. If you have any questions, please, please, please message me. Follow me on Facebook, Lotus Phoenix Coaching. I want to remind you before I go that you are love. Be kind to yourself. You have value. You are not alone, no matter how much it feels that way some days. Love you.